Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and I thought I'd take a look at the T14, the Tier 5 American Premium Heavy Tank. I've had this in my garage for a while, not really been out in it very much. I think I bought it with the intention to review it, and never really got round to it in the end. So I thought I'd jump in it, play a few rounds, and give you guys a review of it, because as it turns out, it's not actually a bad tank, it's quite nice. Reminds me a lot of a Sherman tank. In fact, it almost looks like somebody squashed a Sherman tank, but it's not that much smaller than a Sherman. Not much bigger, sorry. In fact, it's actually a bit lower, slightly bit longer, and a little bit wider. So yeah, it does remind me of, like I say, a flattened Sherman. Now, one of the things that basically lets this tank down is its gun. It's that 75mm M3, same as on the M3 Sherman. The M3 Lee, the stock gun on the M4 Sherman, and the gun on the Canadian Grizzly. So yeah, it did kind of put me off slightly at first, but actually turns out, like I say, it's quite a nice tank. Kind of feels a bit similar to the Excelsior in speed and what have you. In fact, no, I'd say more like a Sherman, but that's kind of what it is. It's almost, you know, might as well be called Sherman Heavy. There were basically two prototypes of these made. I think there's only one of them that still runs, possibly, which I think is the one in Britain at the Bovington Tank Museum. But let's get into the modules and have a look at it. Well, price-wise, quite reasonable. It's a Tech Tree Premium, so you can pick this up at any point. It's 1,500 gold, very standard price for a Tier 5 premium tank. 720 horsepower engine, the 75mm gun M3, like I mentioned before, 15.75 rounds a minute, 92 pen, 110 damage, 127 on your premium, and 38 175 for your HE, 2.06 aiming time, 0.46 accuracy, so it does have that poor accuracy that seems to plague that gun. Hull traverse is 20 degrees, which is not brilliant, but it's not bad for a heavy tank, I suppose. Turret traverse is 26, which I think is fairly similar or fairly average for sort of a Tier 5 heavy tank, especially the American ones with those figures. View range is 330, which does seem very low, but I actually checked, and the M4 gets 370, but the T1, the Tech Tree Tier 5 heavy tank, that only gets 330 meters fully upgraded, and you've got a 570 meter signal range. Now, like I say, that gun, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's the gun that, you know, everybody knows, has been through it. Anybody who's been through the American line will generally have used that gun. Equipment wise, I've gone for gun lane drive, gun rammer, and it was a toss up between vents and coated optics, but seeing as I thought the view range was quite low, I thought I'd stick coated optics on it just to try and give it a bit of a hand. But you could drop them and just stick vents on it to try and improve your other little bits and bobs on there instead, you know, all your sort of major qualifications, traversing, that sort of stuff. It just improves it ever so slightly, and it is slightly. Now, ammo wise, you're looking at 56 for your armor piercing, 2,800 for your APCR, but you could fire quite a few of those and still not lose money, I would have said, and 56 for your high explosive. I've not bothered with any. There's an argument to say that you could take some, your Tier 5, you're going to see Tier 3s and 4s. You could probably do some damage to some of those with your high explosive. I've just not bothered putting any on. Consumable wise, I've just been boring and put my standard on. Small repair kit, first aid kit, and fire extinguisher. Now, skill wise, most people are probably going to use this as a crew trainer, so a lot of the time you'll probably have pretty low skilled crews in, or even fresh crews in, and sort of grind out a few skills on it. But if not, and you're wanting to sort of you know, just put a devoted crew in there, not a bad start, to be honest. This is the crew from my M103. So I've got repairs, I've got track mechanic as well. You can get tracked quite a few times in this because the hull is a bit trolly actually on it, even though it's not physically particularly thick. Sixth sense, obviously, situational awareness to try and help that view range and get it up as big as possible, because most things are going to be able to outspot you at Tier 5 and 6. And oh, by the way, this does get preferential matchmaking, so it won't see higher than Tier 6, which is nice because the gun is pretty crap. And I've also got Brothers in Arms in there, which again just improves everything, and obviously would be more effective if I did put vents on, but situational awareness is slightly more effective with the coated optics, so that's why I've gone for that. I'm also training up clutch braking. I would definitely recommend that on this one. And maybe even snapshot. It's a very, very good hull down tank and a fantastic tank for working the ridge lines because it's got good gun depression, very strong turret front, and very well sloped armour at the front of the upper hull, if you can see. But when I can talk, at the front of the upper hull, as you can see there. Now, let's get into the modules and talk about those a little bit, because there were a couple of surprises in there for me, I must admit. Oh, bonuses. I nearly always forget those. 62% silver and a nice 45% XP bonus. So, you know, it's got a good potential. Not so much for earning money, because obviously you're down at tier 5, so, you know, tier 8 is the best for earning money. But, like I said before, you're not going to lose money in this, and it's got good crew training potential, and, like I say, for a tier 5, it can earn a fair amount of money. Now, you've got the Ford gas engine, which is in a lot of these American tanks. That 720 horsepower translates to a 15.11 horsepower per ton, which isn't bad. To put it into perspective, the M4 Sherman, fully upgraded, has 15.35 horsepower per ton. Now you might be thinking, well, that's really close, but what about the terrain resistance? Well, there's another surprise there, which we'll get to in a moment. However, it is quite a large engine, as you can see in the back there, and it does actually take up some section in the front of the hull, which is basically the transmission to the front drive wheels. So you can get that damage through there, but that is the thickest part of the hull. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. Now, the reason these engines were so big in these, and especially in the M4 Sherman, it's got that funny shape, is I found out recently they were actually aircraft engines, so they were radial. So the cylinders were arranged in a circle rather than a V, and that's why they were so tall. Basically, it's because they were the engines available at the time. Concealment as well is also worth mentioning. It's only 0.14 stationary and 0.07 on the move. It's a fairly big tank, more wide and a little bit long than anything, but they're still not great. But you know what I mean, it's a heavy tank. It's fairly easy to spot, and like I say, the Shermans are bigger than you think. Now, the gun. We've already been through most of the stats, but you have a good gun elevation of 25 degrees, so you're not going to have any trouble if anything's above you. And you've got a very good gun depression of minus 10 degrees. And if you couple that with the angle on the front of the turret, the angle on the front of the hull, and you're using that gun depression, which is what you want to try and do in this, your hull is very bouncy at that point, and so is your turret. You do have to watch out for some of the tier 6s though, and captured KV1s tend to tear you a new one as well, if you're not careful. Now, track wise, very solid. They are very thick as well, which does come into effect again with regards to armor, because they act as space, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Terrain resistances are 1.03, 1.14 and 1.71, which are very, very close to the actual M4 Sherman's terrain resistances, which I think are 1.1 and 1.7, if I remember rightly. So they are very, very close, and it doesn't feel sluggish in any way, I don't think. And it does feel like a fairly mobile heavy tank. Like I say, it's very similar power to weight ratio as an M4 Sherman, and very, very similar terrain resistance as well. Turret on top. Radio is just towards the back of the turret on the left hand side. Ammunition blocks, 2 big long rows right beneath the turret just behind the angled upper sides. So you can just see there, they're the angle bits. You've got the track plates on the side there. So if you want to hit the ammo rack, aim below the turret and above the tracks, and you'll have a damn good chance of hitting it. Crew, you've got 5. You've got the driver and the whole machine gunner down in the front. Commander under his cupola, which is quite small actually, and can be hidden quite easily when using your full gun depression. And then you've got the gunner and the loader in there as well. Now, armour. Fairly basic numbers, but as you can see, never really quite tells the whole story. So the numbers are 101 all the way around the turret, and 51 all the way around the hull. But, like I said before, doesn't quite show the whole story. Hit points, by the way, 690. And something else I forgot to mention as well, because it's something that I've never really mentioned before, but tried to start doing recently. Shell velocity, slow. As you will probably know from this gun, they are a low shell velocity, so you will have to lead your targets a little bit more. 619 for your armor piercing, 774 for your APCR, which are a bit better. Right, 1 to 20. They are your tracks. I'm assuming they're going to be 20mm because they're very thick. Your track plates, your whole top deck, but not the top of your turret, and the whole floor, and the underside of that overhang on the back as well. 21 to 30 is small patches of spaced armour around the gun mantle, top of the turret, top of the commander's hatch, and the driver's hatch, and machine gun, whole machine gunner's hatch as well, and just sort of parts around the turret ring, or just behind it. 31 to 50, you've got the lower glacis, upper glacis, that very well sloped bit that comes down from the engine deck to meet the back, the upper angled sides of the hull, and the whole front glacis, as well as the the sort of front deck around the hatches, and yeah, little bits of spaced armour. I think they are on the gun mantle itself. Now there is other armour behind that, as we'll see in a moment. But yeah, if you want to try and get through one of these at the sides, don't go for the tracks or anything like that. You want to try and go for the angled upper side, because even though it has got a bit of an angle to it, it is thin. 51 to 70, the machine gun port. The turret ring, you've also got part of the upper glacis just around the transmission cover and just at the bottom of it, and the sides behind the tracks fit into that bracket as well, so they are actually quite thick. So trying to get through one of these, you know, if you're a lower tier one, through the track plates, the tracks, and then the lower hull sides, can be quite difficult. 71 to 90 is the commander's hatch, some parts of the armour behind the gun mantle, some more parts of the turret ring itself, and, as you notice there, the turret cheeks. You've just got that patch of thinner angled armour on either side. So, you know, if you shoot at one of these from the side, that's the part you want to go for, just at the front of the sides. In fact, well, not so much from that side, but yeah, they are the thinner parts on the turret anyway. The commander's hatch is small and difficult to hit. And then 91 to 120, well, actually it's 102, as you can see, that armour depth, just under survivability, is up to 102, which is that front lower glacis, the transmission cover, and then the rest of the turret, which is supposed to be 101, and that is basically what it is, apart from those patches that we'd already seen on the gun mantle and those bits on the turret cheek as well. Now, I'll try and give you some tips on how to actually use this in the replays, but essentially you want to kind of use it like you would an M4 Sherman. But let's get into the replays and see how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays, and I know a lot of people don't really like the T14 and sort of refer to it as the worst Super Sherman. And I don't think it quite deserves that reputation. I mean, yeah, like I say, I've already shown you that the upper glacis hull armour is only 51mm, but it's very well sloped, and, you know, against some of the lower tiers, and, you know, medium range against some of your own tier, it can still bounce because it is very well sloped. And like I said in the garage, when you're using your gun depression, it is very, very bouncy. Same as the turret as well, with that being 101 and having that angle to it. When you're using your gun depression, it can be very bouncy. And I think the only, in my opinion, the only thing that does let it down is the gun, because it's that M3 L37 75mm. But I think if it had anything like the M1A1, even though it's still a medium tank gun, and this is, you know, technically heavy, I think it would be OP with preferential matchmaking. So I think if it was going to have a different gun, it would need different matchmaking. But you can deal with this gun. And I think, you see, I know with the Grizzly, I was saying that this gun is you know, it's not good enough and blah blah blah. And the different tanks, even though that technically has thicker armour on the front, this has got, I'd say this has got a better effective thickness, and it's got that stronger turret, so you can, you know, you can keep there, and you can keep shooting, especially if you hold down, you know, if you miss or you don't pen, you can take another shot, and you can be fairly safe in the knowledge that, you know, there's a good chance they're going to bounce off your turret, or like I say, if you're using that gun depression, off your armour. Now I think that was the only, I think that might have been the only damaging shot that I take throughout this entire match. And I don't know if it was from that Panzer III-4. Oh, what we got up there? Little tier 3, he didn't last too long. I decided to track him in case he wanted to pull back or try to get around me. And he got taken out, but there's an OI experimental over there. And I have a couple of bouncing shots off him, but I don't have too much trouble penning his armour. If that was an OI not OI experimental, if it was an OI, I would be having a lot of trouble, even with premium armour, and you would have premium ammo, sorry, and you would have to get round the side of it. And there are certain tanks, like I said, that you've got to try and avoid, or take them down from a distance, that sort of thing. Captured KV-1s, and, well, I suppose in turn the KV-1 with the 57mm as well, they can just DPM the crap out of you. And in fact, I think I think I'm using 3 replays today, and I think the last one that actually happens to me. But this was the first game I'd taken this out in a long time. I bought it, had a couple of games in it, and that's it. And you know, that was the first time I'd taken it out for a while. In fact, I got no equipment on it or anything, so I stuck some on to do the review. But I came out of that with 1,177 XP of my own, XP damage, sorry, high caliber, and top of the table as well. But it's not a bad little heavy. I'd say it's a good starting premium, maybe. You know, for new players, if they're wanting something, you know, like an American tank to train up a few crews and a bit of extra cash, but they don't want to spend too much. You know, maybe they're not entirely sure if they want to keep playing. But I think it's a good starting premium, and you know, like I say, I've seen it get a bad rep, and I don't think it quite deserves it. It's, you know, it's not bad. It's quite a decent, solid little tier 5 heavy in my opinion. Like I say, you know, the armour can stand up. You've got to play it a bit more cautiously in tier 6, but then again, you know, what tank? You know, there aren't many tanks that you don't have to play cautiously when you're not top tier, or say more cautiously, should I say. But you know, I have bounced tier 6s in this. But again, you've just got to think about your placement, and you want to play it like you would a Sherman. Simple as that, I suppose. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, so you want to be working the ridge lines. You want to hull down as much as possible. But don't just, again, I've said this before, don't just find a hull down location. Stay there. Try and put yourself in a hull down location wherever you are. You know, think about when you're going to go and attack a tank. Think about where you can place yourself. And like I say, use ridge lines. Use that gun depression, because it really does enhance your armour when you are doing. But yeah, very good ridgeline tank. And again, as I said in the garage, it's not particularly slow. Top speed at 34 km an hour is alright. Power to weight ratio is basically the same as a Sherman. Or the M4 Sherman, should I say. And same with the ground resistance as well. So yeah, it is just like a heavy tank version of the Sherman. The ELC didn't end up too healthy. I managed to set him on fire and just finish him off as he went across there. Now, at the moment, it's the summer holidays, so my kids are off school, so I'm trying to get the videos up every night as usual, but it is a bit more difficult when your kids are at home. I'm sure many of you will agree, to get things done that you need to get done, you know, that sort of thing. So that's why this one's going up in the morning. In fact, I'm actually recording this commentary this morning. I've not been up for very long. I'm on my first coffee, so if I sound a bit weird, that's probably why. Now, for those of you that see this in time, and I will put a bit of a marker, or I will put something up on YouTube and Twitter, I will be appearing in Skate Extreme's charity live stream at around 4 PM today. Now, with it being British summertime, I believe that's UTC +1, which is Universal Coordinated Time, or Universal Time Coordinated, whatever it is anyway, but I believe it's that +1, but just take that with a pinch of salt. It might just be UTC, but I think it's UTC +1 with it being British summertime. Anyway, back to this match. Well, it was going alright on the hill, but the enemy tanks, a couple of those quicker mediums, have managed to sneak the way up, and yeah, that Skoda's been giving me a bit of trouble, and in fact he's just very, very nearly killed me. And can I finish him off? No, but somebody else did before he managed to take me out completely. But I am in a bit of a bad situation, and that's what I mean with the front. Sometimes when you're on the level, it's just not enough. But if you are shooting at one of these and you can't pen it, try and go for that machine gun hatch. Well, machine gun port, should I say, on the front. Now, this Panzer IV-H, I'm not sure, but it kind of looked like he was using a howitzer. Now, I've got to be careful with him, because if he is, then that's HE, and you see there, I don't know, that, I'm sure that was an HE tracer. Your normal ones are white, I think, aren't they? Yeah. I think they are. Oh, that's my phone. I completely forgot about that again. Honestly, that's how early it is. Yeah, it kind of looks like he's using the howitzer. That muzzle brake looked a bit big. Yeah, I think he possibly was, and with the orange or yellow or whatever it was, tracers, I think that is normally the HE colour, because all the tracers have different colours. Don't ask me, I'm colourblind. But I think it's white for your normal. Red is definitely APCR. And I think it's orange for HE, something like that, and maybe the same for heat. But you'll know heat, because if it hits, there's like a bit of a fizzle and you'll see black smoke coming off. So that's how you know if you had heat fired at you. But anyway, again, not too bad a round. Quite a steady, happy round, sort of, really. Well, I say happy, I died, so I wasn't that happy. But it was a fairly steady round, and again, it just shows you some of the strengths and weaknesses of that tank. Now, this is the last replay that I'm going to show you today. And, well, it's a tier 5 match again. I mostly did get into tier 5 matches. That one, I think, was technically a tier 6, that last one, but there was only one tier 6 on each team. But yeah, mostly, I mean, with the preferential matchmaking, I have generally been in tier 5 matches. I know there's other tanks with preferential, and, well, you don't always, you don't always get tier, their tier or whatever. And I don't know if this is the case. It does seem that some tanks seem to get worse matchmaking than others. They'll sort of be bottom tier more often than not, but I don't know. It's probably just one of those psychosomatic things. But anyway, back to this match. I've taken a little jaunt into the Magic Forest. It's basically just me and a light tank down here, but to be honest, I'm quite confident in this. Like I say, even though the sides only show 51mm, for those of you that sort of watched the garage review, you saw that the lower sides, which are, well, most of it, have got the track plates, then they've got the tracks, then they've got thicker armour behind that, which is, I think it was about 60 to 70mm bracket, so it is a bit thicker. So the 51mm only applies to the upper sloped sides. So, sometimes these light tanks will get around you, like a tier 4 or something, expecting to be able to put shells through the side of your tank, and yeah, they can't. So it can be a bit of a surprise. But all in all, they just seem to be a bit trolly, the T14, in many respects. The gun, I know I've mentioned it before, but it is its major, or its main, letdown point. Sorry for the noise in the background. I have stupidly let the rabbit out this morning. Should have left him in until I'd done this. But yeah, that is its main sort of letdown. But the armour, in some ways, reminds me a little bit of the IS-6. Not in too many ways. I mean, it's just the sort of trolliness of it. Because it's one of those tanks that occasionally, things that you expect when you're shooting at it, things you expect to pedal bounce and things you don't expect to, etc, etc. And sometimes the armour control you, stuff you expect to bounce doesn't. But so far, well, the light has been taken out, unfortunately, but I've managed to work my way round. I'm just trying to take out the bathtub over there, that French TD, is it the S35 something or other? The French bathtub. So I'm just trying to take him out. I did take a penning hit from him, and my driver's been taken out, so I'm going to heal him. But I want to take him out first. Now, see him wiggling side to side? That's a tactic that has been mentioned to me before when I've done videos of that tank. And it doesn't always work, but just give it a bit of a wiggle, and occasionally you can bounce shots. And now I've got a hidden coming in, and there we go, took his engine out. And he's mine. He's just, yep, he is mine. I've pinned him in place, and there we go. Now I took a couple of bounces from over there. Was that Artie that was taking the shots? And oh, yeah, didn't notice the captured KV-1, and this is what I'm on about. The normal ammo, the gun's not quite accurate enough to aim for the weak spots. I can try and aim for them, but I'm generally not likely to hit them. So I have had to switch to some premium ammunition. I do manage to get one through the side and track him, but he's skidded slightly, and it's put him at almost the perfect angle to bounce my shots and just allow him to DPM me to death. So do watch out for captured KV-1s in the T14. But it wasn't too savage. It was a defeat, unfortunately, but I still managed to do 1200 damage and come out of that with the sniper, and still 2000 XP because I got a battle hero medal, sniper. You get it basically if you get a battle hero medal, you essentially get the XP you would have got for winning. And still managed to come top of the table, so yeah, still happy with that result. But there you go, T14. Not a bad tank, a bit like a fat Sherman, quite a decent, solid little tier 5 premium. But there you go. Hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you may have found it informative. And if anyone's been struggling with that tank, maybe giving you a few tips. But anyway, I'll be back later on with another video, hopefully. So until then, take care out there, and I'll see you next time. See you later.